Lightroom provides you with the ability to place a watermark on all of the images you share via the Slideshow, Print, and Web modules, as well as the Export feature. In all of these cases, you can simply turn on the feature and then choose a watermark from the pop-up. Of course, to really put this feature to use, you'll want to create a custom watermark, and in this lesson, I'll show you how that's done. In this case, I'll use the Print module to show you how to create your own watermark, but you could just as easily access this feature from the Export dialog box, the Slideshow module, or the Web module. In the Print module, the watermark feature is found in the Page pane of the right panel. To get started, I'll turn on the checkbox for watermarking and then click the pop-up to see the available options. I can choose None if I don't want any watermark, or I can select an existing watermark. In this case, I've already created my own watermark and use my name as the name for the watermark. To edit an existing watermark or create a new watermark, you can choose the Edit Watermarks option. This will bring up the Watermark Editor dialog. On the left side of the Watermark Editor dialog, you'll find a preview that shows you what the image will look like with the watermark on it. If you have multiple images selected, you can click the left and right arrows to cycle through those images to get a sense of how the watermark looks on different images. This can be very helpful because you want to ensure your watermark will be legible across a wide variety of images. From the pop-up at the top left of the dialog, we can choose an existing watermark to modify, save our current settings as a new preset, delete the current preset, or rename the current preset. You can create a watermark that consists of text or an image. By choosing the appropriate setting at the top right of the Watermark Editor dialog, you can switch between text and graphic mode. The mode will also switch automatically to graphic if you click the Choose button and specify an image that you'd like to use as the watermark. In this case, I'll go ahead and choose the graphic option, which will cause the Open dialog box to appear. I can then navigate to the folder that contains the image I want to use and choose that image to select it as the image to be used for the watermark. I'll then click the Choose button to close the Open dialog box. Notice that all of the options related to text have now been disabled. That's because text doesn't apply when I'm using a graphic as the watermark. To explore some of these other options, though, I'm going to switch back to the text option. In the text options section, you can change the font, the style, and the alignment for the text. This obviously relates to the text that you've entered in the text box at the bottom left of the dialog. I'm going to go ahead and change this text a little bit so that we can see some more of the options. Specifically, I'm going to add a website address in addition to the copyright symbol and my name. In particular, having multiple lines of text will allow us to see the alignment feature. Left will cause all lines of text to be aligned to the left, center will cause the text to be centered, and right will cause it to be right aligned. Notice that this relates only to the alignment of the multiple lines of text, not to the alignment of the text relative to the image itself. In this case, I'll stick with the left option. I can then click the color swatch to choose the color that I would like to use for this text. I'll leave the option set to white in this case. The next set of options relates to a shadow you can apply to the text. I recommend always using a shadow in conjunction with a relatively light color for your watermark to help ensure the text is legible regardless of the color it happens to appear over in each image. With the shadow option turned on, you can specify the opacity, or how bright that shadow is, the offset, or how far away it appears from the text. The radius affects the amount of blur applied to that shadow. In other words, will it appear crisp just like the original text, or very fuzzy? Finally, the angle determines in which direction the shadow will be offset from the original text. Scrolling down, we can find the options related to the watermark effect itself. The opacity control obviously relates to how opaque or transparent the watermark will appear. You might have noticed with the font settings that there wasn't an option to specify the size. That's because the size is set down here in the watermark effects. Proportional simply means that you're able to use a slider to determine the relative size of the watermark in the image itself. The fit option will cause the watermark to be resized so that it fills the available space within the image. And fill will enlarge the watermark to the point that it fills the entire space of the image. This is really only useful if you're using a graphic watermark. In this case, I'll leave the option set to proportional and set the size as I deem appropriate. The Inset option determines how far away from the edge of the image the watermark will appear. Values of 0 mean that the watermark will align with the edge of the image. A positive value will move the watermark inward, while a negative value will move the watermark outside of your image. The only time you'd want your watermark outside of the image is for cases such as a slideshow where you might not want to have the watermark over the image itself. But generally speaking, I would set this to a slightly positive value so that the watermark is not right up against the edge of the image. You can also determine where within the image the watermark should appear. Simply choose an anchor point, which can be one of the edges or corners of the image or the center of the image. If you choose the center option, naturally the inset controls will not be available because you're not going to move the watermark away from the center of your image. Finally, you have rotate controls which work for both text and graphic watermarks. Simply click the button to rotate counterclockwise or clockwise as desired to orient the watermark the way you'd like it. If I click the Save button, I'll update the current watermark, which happens to be my Tim Gray watermark. I'll leave the watermark in the normal orientation and place it in the bottom left corner. At this point, if I were to click the Save button, I would be updating my existing Tim Gray watermark. I can also choose the pop-up to save the current settings as a new preset. For example, in this case, I'll click to create a new preset and call this one Tim Gray with Web, indicating that it includes my website address. I'll click Create, and this will become the preset in the Watermark Editor dialog, and when I click Done, it will also be the currently selected watermark. A watermark can be very important in terms of identifying your photographic images as your own when you put them out into the world. The fact that Lightroom offers a single watermarking option that can be applied universally across all of the output options makes this task remarkably easy for photographers. Simply configure your watermark once, and you're ready to put it to use whenever you share your images.